I'm going to discuss Ncert Political Science. Basically, class 11 and 12 books, they are sufficient if you are preparing for government exam. You can go through class 6 to 8 books if you have time, and class 9 and 10, it's necessary to go through them, because after having the base formation by going through class 9 and 10 books, then going to 11 and 12 books, that will be a better idea. But I am beginning with class 11. There are 2 books in class 11 of political science. One is India Constitution at Work, another is Political Theory. In the first book, India Constitution at Work, there are 10 chapters. Constitution, why and how. Rights in the Indian Constitution, election and representation, executive, legislature, judiciary, federalism, local government, Constitution as a living document, philosophy of the Constitution. In the second book, you will find the political theory, freedom, equality, social justice, rights, citizenship, nationalism, secularism, peace, development. All the chapters are important. You cannot skip even one chapter. Beginning with the first chapter, I will just touch the main points and go through quickly. This video is just a rapid revision type video. Only the main things I am going to touch. I am not going to discuss the whole chapter line by line. The first chapter is Constitution, why and how. So in this chapter, you will find what is the Constitution. What are the functions of the Constitution? It will coordinate. Constitution coordinates, assures. Who are the makers of the Constitution? What are the provisions of the Constitutions? What are the function? Another function is it provides a basic set of rules which will allow for minimal coordination among members of society. From this chapter, one main question comes in prelims, that the Indian Constitution, it has borrowed certain rules from other constitutions, certain provisions it has borrowed from other constitutions, mainly from Irish, United States, French, Canadian constitution. It has borrowed some provisions, some kind of rules. So what are those? And in your prelims, you will find that this type of question is repeatedly asked. They will mention that where from this rule of law is borrowed, from which constitution. Then you have to select the correct option. So if you have gone through this chapter very well, then you can definitely answer this question. This is a very important question answer you can get in this book, in this chapter. The second function of the Constitution is that who has the power to make the decision in a society, and it decides how the Constitution will be constituted. Limitation on the power of the government. Third function is Constitution is to set some limit on what a government can impose on its citizen, and these limits are fundamental in the sense that the government may never trespass them. India is a democratic country, we all know. So Indian Constitution is a democratic country, and our Indian Constitution, it is not too rigid or too flexible. Aspiration and goals of a society. Indian Constitution, it was particularly innovative in this respect. Society with deep entrenched inequalities of various kinds will only not have to set limits on the power of government. They will also have to enable and empower the government to take positive measures to overcome these forms of inequality or deprivation. Point to be noted that still today there are caste discrimination, they exist. Fourth function of the Constitution, it enables the government to fulfill the aspiration of a society and create conditions for a just society. Fundamental identity of a people, this Constitution is providing to the people. Authority of a constitution. Mode of promulgation, which refers to how a constitution comes into being, who crafted the constitution, and how much authority did they give. Debate over constitution. One finest example is Nepal. Five constitutions were made. Nepal was governed by a monarch, by the king, and then finally in 2015 Nepal adopted a new constitution and it became Democratic Republic after abolishing the monarchy in 2008. The substantiated provision of a constitution, which is the hallmark of a successful constitution, gave everyone, the society, some reason to go along with its provision. Balanced institutional design. The Indian Constitution horizontally fragments the power across different institutions like the legislature, executive, and the judiciary, and even there are independent statutory bodies like the Election Commission, which ensures that even if one institution wants to subvert the Constitution, others can check its translation. An intelligent system of checks and balances has facilitated the success of the Indian Constitution. The Indian Constitution is a living document. How was the Indian Constitution made? The Constitution was made by the Constituent Assembly, which had been elected for undivided India. It held its first sitting on 9 December 1946 and reassembled as Constituent Assembly for divided India on 14 August 1947. Its members were chosen by indirect election by the members of the Provincial Legislative Assembly that had been established under the Government of India Act 1935. The Constituent Assembly was composed roughly along the lines which was suggested by the plan which was proposed by the Committee of the British Cabinet, which is known as the Cabinet Mission. Composition of the Constituent Assembly. The number of members in the Assembly was reduced to now 299. The Constitution was adopted on 26 November 1949. 284 members were actually present on 24 January 1950 and appended their signature to the Constitution as finally passed. The Constitution came into force on 26 January 1950. Principle of deliberation. The authority of the Constituent Assembly does not come only from the fact that it was broadly, though not perfectly, representative. It comes from the procedures it adopted to frame the Constitution and the values its members brought to their deliberation. The importance of public reason was emphasized in the mundane procedures of the Assembly as well. The Constitution had 8 major committees on different subjects. Each committee usually drafted particular provisions of the Constitution which were then subjected to debate by the entire Assembly. The nationalist movement brought to the Constituent Assembly is the Objectives Resolution, the resolution that defined the aims of the Assembly, which was moved by Nehru in 1946. This resolution encapsulated the aspiration and values behind the Constitution. India is an independent sovereign republic. India shall be a union of erstwhile British Indian territories, Indian states and other parts outside British India and Indian states as are willing to be a part of the union. Territories forming the union shall be autonomous units, exercise all power and function of the government and administration except those assigned to or vested in the union. All powers and authority of sovereign, independent India and its constitution shall flow from the people. All people of India shall be guaranteed and secure social, economic and political justice, inequality of status and opportunities and equality before law, fundamental freedom of speech, expression, belief, faith, worship, vocation, association and action subject to law and public morality. The minorities, backward and tribal areas, depressed and other backward classes shall be provided adequate safeguard. The territorial integrity of the Republic and its sovereign rights on land, sea and air shall be maintained according to justice and law of civilized nation. The land would make full and willing contribution to the promotion of world peace and welfare of mankind. Institutional arrangements. That means a balanced arrangement of the institution of government. The basic principle is that government must be democratic and committed to the welfare of the people. The Constituent Assembly spent a lot of time on involving the right balance among the various institutions like the executive, legislature and judiciary, which led to the adoption of the parliamentary form and the federal arrangement, which would distribute the government powers between the legislature and executive on the one hand and between the states and the central government on the other hand. Provisions which is adopted from constitutions of different countries. This is what I was talking, that prelims repeatedly this type of questions asked. There are 5 constitutions from which India has borrowed. One is British, Irish, French, Canadian, United States. From British, first passed the post-parliamentary form of government, idea of the rule of law, institution of the speaker and her or his role, lawmaking procedure. Irish Constitution, directive principle of state policy. French Constitution, principles of liberty, equality and fraternity. Canadian Constitution, a quasi-federal form of government to federal system with a strong central government. The idea of residual powers. United States Constitution, character of fundamental rights, power of judicial review and independence of the judiciary. Here comes the end of our first chapter. Our second chapter is rights in the Indian Constitution. A democracy must ensure that individuals have certain rights and that the government will always recognize these rights. A Bill of Rights prohibits government from acting against the rights of the individual and ensures a remedy in case there is a violation of these rights. Fundamental rights in the Indian Constitution. During our freedom struggle, the leaders of the freedom movement had realized the importance of rights and demanded that the British rulers should respect the rights of the people. Motilal Nehru Committee had demanded a Bill of Rights as far as back in 1928. The word fundamental suggests that these rights are so important that the Constitution has separately listed them and made special provision for their protection. Fundamental rights, they are so important that the Constitution itself ensures that they are not violated by the government. Fundamental rights, they are different from other rights which is available to us. Ordinary legal rights, they are protected and enforced by ordinary law. Fundamental rights, they are protected and guaranteed by the Constitution of the country. Ordinary rights may be changed by the legislature by ordinary process of lawmaking, but a fundamental right may only be changed by amending the Constitution itself. No organ of the government can act in a manner that violates them. Judiciary has the power and responsibility to protect the fundamental rights from violation by action of the government. Executive as well as legislature action can be declared illegal by the judiciary if this violates the fundamental rights or restrict them in an unreasonable manner. Fundamental rights, they are not absolute or unlimited rights. Government can put reasonable restriction on the exercise of the fundamental rights. Constitution of India, Part 3. Fundamental rights. There is right to equality, right to freedom, right against exploitation, right to freedom of religion, cultural and educational rights, rights to constitutional remedy. Right to equality, you see, equality before law, equal protection of law, prohibition of discrimination on grounds of religion, race, caste, sex or place of birth, equal access to shop, hotel, well, tank, bathing hut, road, etc. Equality of opportunity in public employment, abolition of untouchability, abolition of title. Right to freedom. Protection of right to freedom of speech and expression, assemble peacefully, form association, union, move freely throughout the territory of India, reside and settle in any part of India, practice any profession or to carry on any occupation, trade or business, protection in respect of conviction for offences, right to life and personal liberty, right to education, protection against arrest and detention in certain cases. Right against exploitation, prohibition of traffic in human beings and forced labor, prohibition of employment of children in hazardous jobs. Right to freedom of religion.